Good afternoon. Welcome to the FTD University webinar titled Revenue Generating Merchandising Tactics. Today, you will learn new ways to merchandise your products to capture your customers' attention and drive more sales, as well as how to set fixtures in a pattern that allows for maximum traffic flow based on the 3 most popular store layouts. FTD Education Consultant J. Keith White, AIFD, will be leading this informative webinar. As partner and design director of A&K Productions, a special events company, Keith is known for his floral vision and extraordinary designs. No stranger to news media, Keith's programs and projects have been covered by broadcast, internet, and print journalism for more than 2 decades. Sponsored by FTD, his masterful designs on the official vehicles in the annual Rose Parade have been viewed by millions. In conjunction with this webinar, FTD is holding the 4th annual FTD Makeover Magic Contest. To enter the contest, you must watch this live webinar in its entirety and submit a 75-word or less essay explaining why your shop interior deserves a makeover, as well as 1 or 2 photos of your shop's current interior space and storefront window display. All submissions must be sent to PR Department at FTDI, that's spelled PRDEPT, at FTDI.com by midnight Pacific Time tonight, August 11th, 2015. The contest winner receives a store makeover valued at $5,000. You can view the official contest rules at www.ftdi.com/makeover. Once Keith is finished with his presentation, we will open the webinar up for questions. If you have a question, simply type it in the question box on the upper right side of your screen. Please feel free to submit your questions during the presentation, and we'll hold them until the Q&A portion of the webinar. So without further ado, I would like to turn the call over to Keith to begin the webinar. Keith?
Well, good afternoon, and thanks for everyone joining in for another exciting merchandising webinar and FTD's continuing education. Of course, this is now the 4th annual webinar to be presented in conjunction with the Magic Makeover contest. So again, if you haven't submitted it, we remind you, listen in and then submit it right after the program. But one of the things to get started with merchandising is the actual first impression. And this is what a customer sees and thinks literally in seconds. And yes, your store does have a personality. So is this the perception that you want people to see and be attracted by? And it also dictates kind of what the shopping experience is going to be for that consumer. So with the webinar, I want to go over some very tactical forms of how you can strategically place your store ahead of most. So we're going to cover the storefront and entry, and then the first 10 seconds of the shopping experience and layout choices that are available and things that you might want to look at and choose and think about, and then also merchandising and color blocking, which I think people have a lot of questions on. But first off, we'll start with the storefront and entry. And literally, the traditional florist from the early days to today, the focus was on fresh flowers and produce. One of the first makeovers we did was in Kansas City with Luther's florist. And Bonnie there explained to me about her grandfather literally growing produce and flowers, and they would take it into the market on buggies. Well, of course, with today, technology has changed, but basically the focus has been on providing customers with fresh product. And when you look at how catchphrases are used, not only through social media, but catchphrases like farm and garden fresh, they're the perfect words to be able to boost the floral industry. And this is what we want to provide. It's back to, I want to say, the old school. Use those kind of phrases like farm or garden fresh when marketing not only your store, but even merchandise that you have. And you can see here, from the suit and tie to the girl in her tennis shoes, that's what's changed. But anyway, use those catchphrases again to exemplify what we are as retail florists. And that whole storefront and entryway, um, I just want you to, not right now, but after the webinar, literally, and I've mentioned this before, stand outside or drive up to the front of your store and look at your windows. And is this a good representation of what a customer will find inside? And I know with the makeover last year, Shiloh had the perfect scenario. It's like her photos that were sent in, it was like, what is this? And all I could tell was a phone number on the outside. I saw her name, but it was big. And you couldn't really tell what she had going on inside just from these bold letters. So again, of course, brand recognition is important, and the brand name recognition like FTD is important to have on your store, but have your store name boldly and proudly presented. You don't need to say it over and over again. Here's, you know, the ultimate classy girl, Victoria Beckham, and just has it once, and that's it. And remember, the message is simple on the exterior because you only have those few seconds. So if someone can find your name, like I mentioned to Shiloh, they're looking for your name. If they're driving by that busy street, they don't have time to write down your phone number. They're going to key it into their phone and find you, which they do, and they have. So, but the front is to attract and not. Always remember, it's not a historical museum of signs or events that have already taken place. And I see this over and over again of people showing even different seasons in the wrong season. They just haven't changed their window out fast enough. So again, you have those few seconds to be able to say, hey, I want to go inside. And you're attracted to that personality of the store. And I have to explain soft versus hard, no puns intended, but we'll use those definitions of how to gain attraction. And when you look at color selections that you place in your store window, you can see the top photograph has more muted colors and a lot of busyness going on. That's what I call softness. There's a lot happening, a lot for the eye to capture and take in. Yes, it's very pretty, and yes, you might want to go in there, but look what's being brought forward. Something that's bolder, something that's stronger. One bucket of roses says and tells a whole story. The crate simply placed there. It can be used for other propping, but again, it gives you that country feeling just by placing it on a table, a bucket of roses, and a crate. It tells what's inside that shop, as you can see in there. So again, the bolder, the stronger, whiter, and maybe brighter colors can capture an attention even more. But if you look down at the lower photograph on the right-hand side, you'll see vessels that are stone and concrete, more sleek and refined, and kind of artsy feeling. So there's a big difference in appeal to a crowd from the country to the more sleek and sophisticated side of contemporary that's shown below. But also in that photograph, you can see that, yes, you can soften those hard lines and spaces and the visual attraction. They've used maybe like the silver orbs in one of the containers, all in one, the mother-in-law's tongue or the Sansevieria in one, wood branches in another. Very bold, bold statements and very visually attractive and attraction-getting kind of visually pieces. But yet, focused in the very center of this display is the softness that comes into play. So people can relate to all different mediums when you're doing that type of work. And I'm sure with like Shiloh's shop last year, I used some similar pieces, you know, in her storefront. And that's one of the things is you can put these pieces in and leave them as established pieces, but change out what goes in these different vessels to be able to change out your windows. Again, regular updates are great to have, but that doesn't mean you have to reinvent the wheel each day or each week. And so you want to create a balance, and balance has a tendency to produce pleasure and excitement in a subtle manner. So again, a strong message is perceived with the harder or bolder types of objects that are placed within your window. So now you're probably saying, oh my God, it's time to declutter. Cluttering has a high tendency of making consumers lose interest in your wares. And like I mentioned, it's the first 10 seconds, what that customer does when they walk in your store. Yikes, the photograph that I chose for this one to represent not a flower shop, but I want you to feel like you as a consumer going out to purchase other than your store, what you look for when you have that shopping experience. Think of those thoughts. Think of how when you walk into a store that's one of your favorites other than your own, how it makes you feel, what you want to buy. When you look at this particular photograph and you see the hodgepodge of what is going on in this place and a sale sign hanging there, it reminds you of a thrift store or a resale shop. And so you have to step back and go, is this what my store really looks like? A hodgepodge of stuff all put in here with a big sales sign? Like, we don't know where we're headed. We don't know our marketplace. We don't know really what we're doing. And it gives that customer a non-confident feeling when walking in a store similar to this. And what you want to do is show that you have that confidence in planning, in layout, in color blocking, and you know your market share, who you're catering to in all these aspects of your store itself. So again, think of you as the shopper, not only going to your favorite store, but walk in your store and feel good about it. And that's what even the makeovers have done. It's been amazing. You know, the smile on Shiloh's face, the smile at always something special. Luther's florist, she was so proud to walk in her shop every day. And that's the feeling. If we feel that way, then our customers will feel that way also. So before we get into a total layout of the store, there's what is called a decompression zone. And there's a breathing space in that store, in your store about, I would say, about 5 feet, 15 if you have it. But once you establish this kind of space, you can include it in your planning and layout. But also what you need to think of and consider too is this open door design space. Customers are and want to be involved in the decision making of the business and see the creativity part of it. They are so enamored with how we put everything together. It's like at a restaurant that has an open type of kitchen. I love to sit there and watch them assemble everything, cook the food, put all the pieces together. Maybe it's the creative part of me that comes out, that I'm interested in all things creative. But customers do want and like to see the creative action. So consider even one counter area, maybe, as a wrap table, or make small bouquets in, silk florals, other things that you have to go items out of the store. But again, people want to be involved and they like to see the action within the store. So one of the things too with like Always Something Special, the second makeover we did, she actually had the whole store as an whole open concept due to not only size, but it was really amazing to watch the customers come in during and of course, after the makeover, to see how they interacted with it, how she could even sell more items because they were part of what I call the decision making of things, when they saw things going together, and you can suggest other things and add on things. And it's the presentation, of course, of how you present that item out to the consumer itself. But even like with Shiloh at the flower studio, when planning that space, she definitely wanted to have an attraction all the way back to her design area. There's not a wall there, but you can still see the design room and the action. And then, of course, with her front counter, she's able to pull flowers out of the front cooler, be able to do a bouquet right in front of them, and then present it to them, either to take or, you know, if it's a delivery, that works. But again, customers really like this. So consider this before you decide, I'm going to knock my store down and start over. So that brings us to two things you should really consider: that decompression zone and a smaller or possibly a total open concept of design spaces. The traditional grid layout was developed and is used for grocery stores, and this is where the majority of customers wish to shop like the entire store. And maybe this is a good plan for larger retail florists. They might find this acceptable, but it's almost like a wholesaler in a way. The way it's set up, the way it's planned out, the shopping experience for most retailers is you'll want to be able to use options to go into more of a free-flowing layout. So again, I'm talking to the audience today of all different, I want to say, sizes of shops, locations of shops, styles of retail situations. So I want to focus really on free flow layouts where there's no set aisles, so customers roam the store freely. One thing it also gives us as retailers is the option to be able to change our store with that word freely in it. So fixtures are not placed in straight lines, rather they have an angle to, you know, kind of easily move customers throughout the store and exposing them to merchandise displays at every turn. And if you'll look at the straight floor plan, I want to give you some suggestions with that if you decide, oh, I'm not one of these haphazard, I don't know if I can do this free flow layout. So look at the straight floor plan. And I want to point out to you that one of the things with merchandising and how customers react in stores, and you're guilty of this too, is when you walk into a space, if this is your entry door, you'll want to say, I'm going to the right. And that's one of those givens. Customers always tend to go to the right when you walk in a store. So this becomes your power wall or space. This should be where you really knock them dead, right there. It's the hook where you're going to capture them, where you should have your newest, your best items right into that spacing. Then one of the things through studies and after studies is the place of your checkout counter will have a big effect on your business. So you want to place your checkout counter to the left in a layout. So it's very similar. Shiloh can attest to this, I'm sure, in last year's makeup. We gave her that breathing space right at the beginning. Even though it's a smaller store, we gave her that decompression zone. We gave her the wrap area. We gave her also the checkout to the left. All the merchandise is to the right. So customers have the perfect shopping experience when they walk into that store. And then that will be the next question I always get. What color should I paint the walls of my store? And one of the things I want to just comment about is through the years, I guess I've seen a lot of florists painted green. And I think you'll want to avoid greens because color is in direct competition with your florals and foliages. Not that green is a bad color by any means, but there's so many use intensive greens that a lot of times they just compete with the products we're trying to do. So my best suggestion is to stay in a neutral palette and then just kind of study colors and then stay up on trend colors. Use intents of these. So here is a glimpse of the future. And if you can see from the Trend Council, this is for 2017. If you say, oh my God, we're still in 2015, what's the color of the year? Well, the color of the year is gone already. It's too late to jump on that bandwagon. So look at the future, again, of colors and where they're headed. And again, the more you can stay on top of these color trends, the more you will be able to be on top of your retail situation because of colors, because of containers coming in, other objects that are being developed for the future. They will fit into your store frame. So again, it's not that you have to change colors every week. Maybe every season is great, but if you want to pick a neutral color and stick with that, that's great. I have to add just one little thing in here is I've been chosen to be the creative director of the American Floral Trends Forecast for 2016-2017, which is well underway now, and will embrace these color palettes. And so if you're looking for that to come out, that will be coming out in January of 2016. So please be able, and you know, you're able to review this webinar again at ftduniversity.com. So if you can't capture all these colors right off the bat, or you really want to look at them and think about them some more, again, review the webinar at ftduniversity.com. Now we come to merchandising and color blocking. The appeal is to get visual response with a variety and selections. Note the common items surrounding all these produce, but the nopalitas, the cactus petals front and center, you want to add interesting and different items in the center of displays, because this is what is called the hot spot on shelving or in display. It's that object that people, of course, they might not all want to buy it, but they're attracted to it. It's something different. They want to check it out. They want to see it. Or it's one of those items that you want to feature. Make sure you feature it in the hot spot, because it will sell in that kind of situation. So if you want to ask about how color blocking works, there's horizontal color blocking and vertical color blocking. And I'm not showing horizontal color blocking at all because I want you to think vertically and store merchandising. Horizontal does have its applications, but vertical color blocking is the best. And what you want to do, it's very, very simple, is you start from the bottom to the top. The colors are dark at the base, light at the top, and then the objects are large at the top and then small at the base. So when you're bringing in different types of merchandise and you want to display them, look at how they're maybe even shaped. This can be done with all similar objects as in one color. But notice one of the things with the grid form there and the diagram showing these are shirts all stacked in color graduations, but at the top they're showing it with a tie. This is an add-on item of something. If someone's buying a shirt, they want to buy a tie. It's just like in our business, and you'll totally understand it when you look at the next slide, is how forms and shapes work. See how the large orchids are in the back and the flowers graduate down in size? Yes, they're all the same color, but texture and size is important. And you can achieve this, it doesn't have to be on a grid. It doesn't have to be on a wall. You can do it on a flat surface like a table. And so you get the rhythm going in the shop, the interest going in the shop. Again, that hot spot that's in the shop, dead center in the table of merchandise. And one thing I also want you to look at and study, and this particular photograph is the items are elevated off the floor too. One thing that florists do consistently is they either run out of space or they put a bunch of stuff on the floor. When it's on the floor, it's out of reach. That means it's harder to sell. And so if you can elevate your product up, it doesn't have to be a lot even, just some surface underneath it that segregates it right from the floor up just a hair. And it's amazing how people will purchase that type of item when it's just simply elevated. And don't forget to do the same in your cooler too. Customers are they just align themselves with color, and so this will add to making their purchase easier. And that's a lot of the word easy, is how to make that person's shopping experience a really good one, that they're not having to search, they're not having to do a lot. And I talked about silent salesperson. A lot of times this is your silent salesperson if your merchandise is organized, maintained, and color blocked. So here's a simple lesson if you go, oh my God, this is a lot of information to take in all at once. But a simple lesson is to start with what you have on hand. Don't think you have to go out and buy all this more stuff now, but look at what you have on hand, place all the same colors together. This can be done in a way that it becomes a learning lesson in cross-merchandising and purchasing too. Maybe to see where you're heavy buying, or if your personality or your interest, you're a big yellow person, you buy everything you see in yellow, or you buy everything you see in blue. Group all those items together. And again, that cross-merchandising, you'll be able to get maybe some contemporary with some vintage, all kinds of items together. But again, it's like in color blocking. People will be drawn to certain colors. So you might want to give this a try in your store. It's just have a red section, have a yellow section, have a blue section. And if you see that you're really, really heavy on something, kind of run a special of the week to see if you can move some of that product through. Like, yes, even on your website, enter some of that kind of product in, home decor product, container products into it. But to get the feeling is you want to say, okay, we're heavy in pink, think blue, and just run maybe, like I said, a special for that week and see how much merchandise you can run through. And that's using, overages of products, or again, simply adding decorative items to your website. Merchandise themes. In the past webinars, I've gone over different themes, and they are very important. To put like items with like items, or like colors with like colors, like I mentioned in the previous slide. So the photograph to the left shows some garden type of accessories with the birdhouses, the lanterns, the frog, odds and end little pieces here and there, and some orchids elevated above. This could have been a really cool little merchandising setup and a story that they're telling. But you can see the products are basically haphazardly placed on the table, unorganized, and really doesn't make sense. It looks like, oh, this is a bunch of old stuff. It could be something they just got in, or some items that you have that are really important. But if they're just basically thrown up there on the table, or if kids were in the store, yes, that's an excuse that they've messed up all your displays. Make sure you maintain these displays. It's pretty easy once they're set to either fill in the void once it's sold, or replenish sold merchandise, or just straighten it up and dust it too. One thing that I see constantly is people that over merchandise. And I looked at this photograph and I saw a lot of these items, and they're very current, they're very new items. But just the way they've been placed, it's like, oh my God, they have stacked and stacked and stacked beyond. I hate to see the breakage amount for this particular store. So that's one reason why you shouldn't stack either. But also, it decreases the value of each one of those containers every time you stack one of those. The perceived value becomes less and less. If I looked over there at that particular case, I would think to myself, is this stuff on clearance? What is the clearance price of this? Are you trying to get rid of it? Even though it's brand new merchandise. So if you have multiples of items that you want to show, really think about merchandise repetition. It's showing objects like those particular vases side by side, very clean, very simple, and it becomes a higher perceived value and also received value. It's amazing. You can get a little bit more when it's displayed or merchandised properly than it is haphazardly placed on something. Look at the overview of this particular photograph, and you can see that central, high up, there's some objects, but they're also repeated lower in the shelving unit. So again, if something is high and you can't reach it or touch it, make sure you have it below. Then I had mentioned in the diagram with the shirts with the tie above, here's the same thing that pertains to our business, is you're showing 3 or 4 different types of products visually merchandised together, how either colors, textures, shapes, or forms look side by side. This becomes, again, a silent salesperson and how products can be used together. And this gets the customer interested in purchasing more than one item. And look at the hot spot. Dead center is the set of vases that are placed in the middle, the 4 that are white. When you're doing merchandising, if you have white in the center, I mentioned about having different types of objects, but if you pull white in the center and graduate out with darker colors, that works also. So look at how this slide and how merchandising, that you really are enthralled with it. You really want to go take a look. You really want to feel something in there. You do want to pick it up. And you're engaged in that particular product. So overall, you're going, oh, it's easy. It truly is easy. If you keep the essentials in place, just put out essentially what you need. Don't overamp it. Make it aesthetically pleasing to the eye and to the touch. Simple. How can I repeat that again? Look at this particular photograph and you can see, once again, in a floral situation, on the shelving in the back, there's 4 silver vases high up on the shelf, and these are probably next to impossible for a customer to touch and feel and look at. But look down below. The smaller item of the same urn is placed at a touchable level, and this is what I'm talking about. Have items, of course, people always go for the mid-range price, even in floral design. If you give them 3 price points, they'll pick the middle one. So here's the same thing in merchandising. They put the larger up top. Maybe not every customer wants the large, so this is not only an eye appeal or eye candy up at the top of the shelf, but they can feel and touch and buy the mid-range size that's most likely going to sell or be the #1 seller out of those urns. And look at the other placements of materials that have been decorative items, placed on the shelves. 1 and 2 items. They become very special. And it's that psychological thing of saying, maybe they only have 1 more of these. I should pick it up now. Or there's a pair of these. I'd like a pair. And one thing to remember too in a floral shop is we get flowers in and they are processed and everything's kept in the back and nothing's brought forward fresh flowers. A lot of shops that I've walked in, you don't even know it's a flower shop because I don't see any flowers. And this is a way to bring flowers front, forward, and center to the consumer's touch. Look at the lilies or the amaryllis. When you get those in, you want to hydrate them. You want to be able to have a place to show them off. So why not show them off to your customers while they're opening up? It's a great advantage not only for the consumer but for us too, to be able to display what we have fresh. It's back to that fresh in our store. Now they look very good, very long lasting. Other items like the cymbidium orchids, the anthuriums that are on the table, those items, a lot of people don't have a two-cooler system, a tropical cooler versus a real cold cooler. So if you get these in your store too, those items can be left out of the cooler if you don't have the proper cooler for those. And again, it's intriguing. And of course, they're higher dollar point as far as sales goes. And it might be something the customer's interested in instead of us having them tucked away in a closed box and the cooler to prevent them from freezing. So get that kind of product out in front of the consumer. Repetition, you can see the 3 green orbs across the front. It's pleasing to the eye. It's a absolute mimic of like the vases that are back on the back shelf. It gives the eye something to rest on. But you have to remember that hot spot of selling. The little arrangements made on the base of the table, front, center, those are like, pick me up, I'm ready to go. And if somebody's looking for something that they can get in and out of with really quick, have some great little items. Not everything has to be huge and extravagant in a store. And so these are what I call true money makers. They could be broken flowers even or something, but specials of the day, specials of the week, have a few out in the store. And those are those items that people can pick up and leave and, again, be enthralled and look at everything, that aesthetically pleasing to the eye situation. So I want to say, yes, you can do it. And when it comes to fixturing in the store, is it do-it-yourself versus professional? And I want to say, we are creative people, so maybe just think of creative fixtures. Like the photo to the left, the tables, those are probably, thrift store, hand-me-downs, grandma's furniture, we didn't want any more mama's furniture, something, stuff you have stored up in the attic or tucked away under the design room table somewhere back in there, hidden away all dusty. Take a saw, cut it in half, paint them all the same color. That's what the impact is that even though it's a clever use and repurpose of materials, the impact has to do with the coloration. Again, all the same color. The middle photograph I just put in there because I always say think outside the box. So I gave you a round tire with a shelf in it. So it's the yin and yang, the rope, the vintage tires, and then something new and exciting tucked into the middle as a shelf. Then also on the right hand side, ladders have been used for different types of merchandising. Plain ladders, ladders with shelves in it, repurposed items, found objects for shelving. There's all kinds of interesting ways. It's unlimited of what you can do to repurpose and reinvent original uses of items that are found. But again, if you want to just have no projects happening and you want it now, there are all those professional fixturings out there that you can do. But again, people like to see creativity at work. So on that note, what I want you to do is to make sure we are florists and never lose focus on your flowers. we can provide a handcrafted product, and that is one of those catchphrases you'll continue to start seeing, is handcrafted. And I go, it's not homemade, it's handcrafted, which is artisan. We are that artist person creating these special flowers each and every day. And it has your personal touch, each designer. And that's what people can never replace, is that personal touch. No matter how broad technology can expand, we can give them something that's handcrafted with a personal touch and a smile too. So with that, never lose that focus on flowers. And customer service, again, is the key to providing the mortar to the bricks. You have merchandise. So I want to thank each and every one of you today for joining in for revenue generating merchandising tactics. I hope you take some of this or all of this, and again, please review the webinar again at FTD University, and we'll be open for questions shortly. And feel free, if you don't get your question in or you think of something after the webinar is over with, please contact me. It's Keith White, but at jkeithonline@att.net. And again, the webinar is available to view at ftduniversity.com, and the handouts are available at ftdi.com, FTD University, with the webinar materials. And I have to mention also, this is for the people participating. We have the FTD Magic Makeover contest, and as Janet mentioned at the beginning, for those of you that weren't quite tuned in at that point, there is a deadline tonight, Pacific time of midnight, and that is today, August 11th. Please submit 1 or 2 photographs of your shop's current interior space and storefront window display. And I have to mention, don't take something pretty. We don't want to see pretty. We want to see a disaster, so we can come and help you with your disaster on hand. But again, you need to submit a 75-word essay explaining why your shop interior deserves a makeover. Believe me, 75 words is nothing. Just tell me a few little things, and then there is a panel at the FTD office that will review all the entries, and we'll choose one winner, and then I'll see you soon for a makeover valued at $5,000. So I want to turn this back over to Janet, and we'll get into questioning.
Keith, thank you so much for sharing a lot of great information. As Keith mentioned, we are open for questions now. So if you have a question, simply type it in that question box that's on the upper right side of your screen. We do have a question from Rhonda. She said she doesn't know what to do with a long store as far as setting up the displays. What would be your suggestion? On the right are windows, and the left has of the store has the windows into the greenhouse.
It's a long store. I'll have to be like, I'll have to get the key things. It's a long store, and the windows are to the what?
On the right are windows. The right is windows, and then the left of the store are windows into the greenhouse. So I'm assuming the right are windows to the outside. The left of the store are windows into their greenhouse, and it's a very long store.
A very long store. Yeah. So I would say the left side, the windows into the greenhouse, depending on if there's entryways into that greenhouse, to be able to create some smaller areas like I was showing in the free flow layout, that she can merchandise in between the entrances. But if it's a visual appeal that she wants, don't do anything that's going to block so much into the greenhouse to see that there is merchandise, because you want customers to go either out into that greenhouse. The windows are to the right. If those are street view or display type of windows, again, you can limit the window space you have I always say don't put up interior walls because it's harder to maneuver around and to change your actual footprint of the store if there's actual walls put up. But there's ways of doing smaller window displays and not so many to be able to get that attraction in. If it's almost like a sheer type of panel that's installed, that you create one or two stronger areas to visually attract. And then also in the long area, I would definitely suggest either longer, accentuate the lines of the room itself or the space, either with long type tables, farmhouse type tables that you can do much larger settings on. A lot of people have a tendency when the space is big, they want to clutter it up with a bunch of little things. And in fact, you should just embrace the largeness of the shop and create something even bigger, longer, exaggerated sizes within there too. And that could be for her windows, if those are the ones looking out for a street view. Exaggerated sizes would be my thought without actually seeing photos of it.
Okay, she had also mentioned, Keith, that she said yes, the entry, there is an entry to the greenhouse, and she has the long windows are 9 feet high to the street. So, but I think you had some good suggestions in there.
Well, that's a cool place. Yeah. Exaggerate sizes. Don't get too many small details. Bring your smaller details in on longer, exaggerated tables down the middle of the store.
All right, we've got another question from Pam. She said she wants to know, do you recommend ever having the windows painted for different seasons?
Well, the slide I showed you is a pretty incredible paint job. I'd like to know who Victoria Beckham got to paint those amazing foxgloves on the front of that store. So yes, depending on the subject matter of the windows and how the paint job is, take a look at that slide and see, you know, again, it's not, I want to keep saying larger. You've got to stand out now in the crowd, and I think large gets attention. So always remember that with going in. If you're painting your windows, I want to say, if it's here we are. I told Jana and them today where I'm at right now. The heat index is probably 115 right now, and I'm thinking snow. Not that I want to be in it. I wish it upon anybody right now, but snow, snowflakes. Think large, one or two offset over a clustering of 25. Again, larger, and get your point across with that. So yes, it's okay to paint the windows. Just again, think about it. Look at the artwork, and not that you have to have the whole image there either. It can just be a partial image of an object. So, okay.
All right, Susan said she is in a cinder block building with wood paneling on the inside that has been stained. I was contemplating painting the wood, but what do you think? And also, she said the building is just white, so she was thinking about about a color that would really make it pop.
May I ask, again, it's going to be her market share and who she is actually catering to, and maybe like a location of the store, like what general region of the country she might be in. But that would be how to adapt colors to that people can associate with regionally, would be for the exterior. And if you look at the store, and she's telling me she has, if it's true wood paneling that's stained, is it reclaimed wood or is it 70s paneling? So that has a big thing to do with it. If it's a type of reclaimed wood, I would leave it more natural. And if it has been stained, maybe weather it a little bit to bring it up current. Wood, all different types of barn woods, even truck bed wood, train car beds. All this reclaimed wood and repurposed wood is very, very hot and will continue to stay that way because of the whole recycling project and ecological terms that people can associate with, like I mentioned, farm and garden fresh. So, but if it's like 70s plastic paneling, sure, paint it, no problem.
Susan said she's in a rural area too, so I don't know if that will make a difference, Keith.
Ah, a rural area. So they probably know she's there, number one. So I would say it's kind of like with the makeover last year with Shiloh. I wanted to get her personality, and I brought that her personality out within the store. I don't think she realized I could get that personality to become part of the wall, become part of the fixturing, but it happened. And that's one of the things. Take your personality. What's your favorite color? Again, you want to be able to be happy when you see your shop. You want to enjoy opening and unlocking that door every day. So sometimes it's like, bring your personality into it and pick your favorite color and paint it that. Even if it's the loudest shade of hot pink or purple or something. Just think about it. People will know you already in the rural area, and now they'll know you by your personality other than drab white cinder block.
All right, we've got another question from Linda.
Sure.
She wants to know, what's the best way to do displays if the windows are tinted and hard for customers to see from the outside?
The old sunblock view. Number one, never use any other color but white in the window because it does have a tendency to show through depending on the sunblock that you have in the window. Is it absolutely necessary to have? There's ways around it. If it is like on the west side and truly is a heat factor situation, that's going to either damage your products or damage merchandise. I totally understand that you have to have something, but you might look at an awning situation or something else other than darkly tinted windows. If you're in a leased situation, of course, check with landlord do's and don'ts on, can you detint the windows? Can you bring in other things? And I mentioned also, I have to go back to Shiloh's had the same issue last year, is she had the west sun, and what we did, we took a portion of the front window and did a frosting on it. And several stores have contacted me about that and turned them on to that product. It's fairly inexpensive, and it was a way to, again, block out some of the light and block out portions of it with her being able to still show product in the window through clear visible glass. So that's what I would suggest is, think of other alternatives. Again, if you can take it out, if that's any possibility.
Yeah, Linda said they do own the building. They're in northern part of Ontario, but it's not very hot and sunny.
Take the tin off.
All right, we've got a kind of multiple point question because we're on Windows. Betty has some questions about window displays.
Sure.
She wants to know, first part is, do you believe that it's better for a simple focal point or many items in the window? They have, and then they have 3 individual large double storefront windows. So, and then she's also wondering, should they be similar, or can we do seasonal in one, not seasonal in another?
Well, it's, of course, simple, like I mentioned throughout the webinar today, is better with a true focal point, meaning not a focal point in a design, but something that's going to grab your attention. And not that everything has to be larger than life, but that's going to really get it. And if you look at major merchandisers, and I'm talking like Louis Vuitton or Gucci and other stores that spend thousands and thousands, some, per window on their displays, look at some of the things even on Pinterest that they've done and see the coloration, see how they can show off one handbag or one thing, and it makes such a pure statement. I think it's easier to have, if you have like those three multiple windows, is to have very similar theme going on. If it's a wedding theme, or if it's a holiday theme, or a certain seasonal theme, is to have those three windows pertain to the same feeling or season or theme, but they can be in different colorations. So Betty, is that all the question parts?
I think, yeah, you answered everything.
Okay. Okay.
All right. And we've got another couple of questions from Jennifer. She said in their coolers, they use that space for arrangements or bouquets. And she's wondering, she's never understood the purpose of displaying loose flowers for sale in their display coolers. Is that something she should start doing?
I mentioned in a couple of the photographs shown today is your loose flower display. If you have limited cooler space, which a lot of shops do, like their front coolers or a two-door or maybe even just a three-door cooler, and you want to keep your ready-made arrangements, what I say pick up and go, or an order comes in and you can tag and deliver it, that's very cool. But put flowers out in the store, like your lilies, like things that need opening that don't need to be refrigerated immediately, and start out that way. Even like tulips, if you take your tulips, leave them in the plastic sleeve, give them a fresh cut for processing, and put them in a glass vase, they'll stand up overnight. Of course, they'll grow and continue to grow, and maybe leave them out for a day and put them in the next, put them in your cooler the next day. There's other flowers like Gerbers. If those are processed properly with a little bit of maybe like a product called Hydro Dip or something, dip those in really quick, put them in clear glass cylinders by colors, or even mixed is fine. Leave those out, and those Gerbers will stand up overnight, and those kinds of things. So you might want to create, if you don't have that space, is to create a space in your sales area or floor plan that you can incorporate these flowers that are being hydrated per se out, so the customers can look and feel and touch, just like your tropicals that you could leave out in the store for a couple of days, depending, again, climate situations.
All right. And then Chuck wants to know how to decide to increase his merchandise categories or not.
To increase what to buy, what not to buy. What you need to do, number one, is decide your market share and your market niche of where you're headed with your business itself. And the best way to do that is think about what you want to sell and could sell, and also shop your local competitors, meaning other gift stores, other people that have similar product you think you want to carry. And I'm just going to throw out a candle line, for instance, and I'm going to call it the Keith White candle line. If 3 stores down from you has the Keith White candle line, you sure don't want to buy the Keith White candle line. So it's becoming increasingly harder to find items that are specialty items, but they're out there. Believe me, they are. And even sometimes I looked at a couple of stores and I've been in there and I'm thinking, this is really cool. I've never seen this before. It's great packaging. It looks great on the shelf. What is this? And they say, oh, this is done by local so-and-so. So you might even want to try and search out some of your local people that are producing items made in the USA, made by hand, that handcrafted thing again, to carry in your store. So I would kind of search that angle out too, and again, shop competitors and see what they have, and see where Maybe there's a hole missing, something that you could provide your customers with that coincides either with flowers or, again, your walk-in business or web business that you have going on. So again, I hope that helps you.
All right, we've got one more question from Linda. She wants to know, how do you best plan a layout and display if they have tons of items, most of which are different? And she's talking about figurines, plaques, frames, dishes, wall art, clothing, kids and grown-ups, all kinds of stuff, just a hodgepodge of stuff. How would you do that?
The over-merchandised category. What you want to look at is go ahead and like that slide that showed group all like colors together. And I was hoping somebody would ask a question like this because sometimes it's next to impossible to group everything, just to go around the store and pull everything red, for instance, and put it in one category. It's kind of interesting to maybe create like a red category to show, again, cross-merchandising, that you can have a little bit of clothing, a plaque here, a vase here, a whatnot there, all in reds. And again, red is a very powerful merchandise color. But one thing to do is make sure you categorize your items. I have to mention Velcamps. A little over a year ago, FTD with Emily Peterson, we went into the store. They had redone their whole store, all brand new, from ground up, the best fixturing, the best merchandise, beautiful location, beautiful shop, and they were freaked out going, we don't really need to be, to spend money on fixturing and merchandising and all this stuff. But once we got in and I was able to give them key points about merchandising, is think of a department store. If you have so many categories, make sure you have your layout done with departments. So let's say you have kids' clothes. One store that I've worked in quite often, they do carry, like, I hate to say baby clothes, but baby, kid clothes in a shop, really some cool items. But that is categorized and merchandised all in one area of the store. It does not overflow out. And then it's like Velcamps. I put all their gourmet food items all together and made like a kitchen open market situation, that it was, and I don't want to use the word grocery store, but you get it, like a gourmet shop and a little boutique within their store of all the different types of food items. And I know a lot of floors have these, they do gift baskets and everything like that. So it's how to combine all those items together in one department. And then be able to put, again, like candles in another department. So you want to really departmentalize each one of these categories that you have. And of course, it will look stronger and be stronger. But again, try something. Try and do like a whole red area, for instance, or do blue. Blue is consumer one favorite color. It's never going to go away. So do a whole little blue section with everything in your store that you can pull blue. One or two items. Don't over merchandise it, but just do a whole blue section to show, yes, I have all these varied departments within our store. So I hope that helps you.
All right, we've got a quick question from Melody. She wants to know, where should the add-ons be located in the store? Should it be near the cash register?
The add-on items, depending on price point, cards, depending how many you carry, like enclosure cards, gift cards, that sort of thing, happy birthday, happy anniversary, those should be closer to the register. Smaller, less expensive items, just think of yourself at the grocery store, what you have as those impulse items by the register. Little mints, little candies, little things that have a tendency to walk away too. Keep those close at bay near the register. So yes, again, organized, but closer to the register. You're right on with it.
All
Yes.
right. Thanks so much, Keith. It looks like we're out of questions for today. So we just want to thank everybody for attending today's webinar. If you missed a portion of the webinar or would like to view it again, as Keith mentioned, a replay will be available at FTD University online later this week. And the webinar materials are always available to view at ftdi.com. Simply click on the FTD University logo on the bottom of that homepage and then click through to the webinar series page. And as Keith mentioned, very, very important, if you are participating in the exciting FTD Makeover Magic Contest, you do have until midnight Pacific time tonight to submit your 75-word or less essay and 1 or 2 photos of your shop to prdepartment@ftdi.com. That's PRDEPT@ftdi.com. And the official contest rules can be found at ftdi.com/makeover. As always, we will be sending you a very brief survey to gather your feedback on today's webinar. So we'd ask that you please complete the survey to help us improve webinars and other education programs for you. The next FTD webinar is scheduled for Tuesday, October 20th. FTD Education Consultant Christine Kratt, AIFD, PFCI, will share which colors, flowers, and accessories are on the forefront of consumer demand for 2016. Registration is already available at ftdi.com, so please be sure to register as soon as possible to reserve your spot. And again, we want to thank you, Keith, for sharing a lot of great information on merchandising tactics. This concludes FTD's webinar, Revenue Generating Merchandising Tactics. Thank you.